Have you ever noticed that the women who leave the deepest impression are rarely the loudest, the most glamorous, or the ones trying the hardest to be noticed? Their presence lingers long after they've left the room because true attraction has very little to do with appearance. It's built on character, confidence, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing who you are. Today, we're going to explore 7 timeless traits that make a woman genuinely lovely and unforgettable, not because they attract attention, but because they inspire respect, trust, and authentic connection. These are qualities that can transform not only how others see you, but how you see yourself. One of the greatest misunderstandings about confidence is that people believe it comes from being constantly admired. They think confidence is built when everyone agrees with you, compliments you, or notices you. But real confidence works in the opposite direction. It begins the moment you stop, depending on other people to tell you who you are. A woman who truly knows her worth doesn't wake up every morning wondering if the world approves of her. She wakes up knowing that her value isn't something that can be given or taken away by another person. That quiet certainty changes everything about the way she walks through life. Think about the women you naturally respect. Chances are, they aren't trying to convince everyone that they're important. They don't constantly seek reassurance. They don't change their personalities depending on who they're talking to. Instead, they carry themselves with a calm confidence that comes from within. That kind of confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exists. And because it exists, people notice it without being told to notice it. The problem is that our world often teaches the opposite lesson. From a young age, many people are encouraged to chase approval. They learn to measure themselves by grades, appearance, popularity, promotions, or the number of people who validate them. Social media amplifies this habit. Every post can become a search for likes. Every achievement can become a search for applause. Every decision can become influenced by the question, what will people think? But if your identity depends on external approval, your confidence will rise and fall with every opinion around you. You'll celebrate when people praise you and question yourself when they don't. A woman who knows her worth breaks free from that cycle. She understands that compliments are wonderful, but they are not the foundation of her identity. Recognition is appreciated, but it is not required. She doesn't reject kindness or encouragement from others, but she refuses to let those things become the source of her self-esteem. She knows that if someone misunderstands her, overlooks her, or fails to recognize her value, it doesn't diminish who she is. This mindset creates incredible emotional freedom. Imagine walking into a room without feeling the need to impress everyone. Imagine speaking honestly without constantly worrying whether every person agrees with you. Imagine making decisions based on your values instead of your fears. That is the power of self-worth. It allows you to live authentically instead of performing for acceptance. Knowing your worth also changes the relationships you build. When you don't believe you're enough on your own, you're more likely to tolerate unhealthy relationships because you're afraid of being alone. You might ignore disrespect because you're afraid no one else will choose you. You might constantly overextend yourself, hoping that if you give enough, sacrifice enough, or please enough people, they'll finally appreciate you. But relationships built on insecurity often become exhausting because they require endless effort to maintain. A woman who values herself approaches relationships differently. She gives love freely, but not desperately. She supports others without losing herself. She knows that love should never require abandoning her dignity. She understands that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, honesty, and shared values, not constant validation. Because she already believes she has value, she doesn't need to beg someone else to prove it. This doesn't mean she never experiences self-doubt. Every human being has moments of uncertainty. Even the strongest people sometimes question themselves. The difference is that she doesn't allow temporary emotions to define her identity. She reminds herself of her principles, her character, and the progress she's made. She understands that confidence isn't the absence of doubt. It's choosing to keep moving forward despite it. Another beautiful quality of someone who knows her worth is humility. Real confidence doesn't need arrogance. It doesn't look down on others. It doesn't compare constantly. Instead, it celebrates other people's success because it isn't threatened by it. When your identity is secure, someone else's achievements don't make you feel smaller. Their light doesn't dim yours. In fact, Secure people are often the quickest to encourage others because they understand that confidence grows through generosity, not competition. Simon Sinek often reminds us that leadership begins with serving others, not seeking status. The same principle applies here. A woman who knows her worth isn't obsessed with proving she's better than everyone else. She's focused on becoming the best version of herself. She understands that personal growth is an internal journey, not a competition with the people around her. She also accepts that mistakes are part of life. Instead of allowing failure to define her, she allows it to teach her. She apologizes when she's wrong, learns from difficult experiences, and continues growing without believing that one setback determines her future. Her confidence comes from resilience, not perfection. Perhaps the most attractive thing about this kind of self-worth is the peace it creates. She doesn't chase every trend because she knows who she is. She doesn't constantly compare herself because she understands that every person has a different journey. She doesn't waste energy pretending to be someone she's not because authenticity is far less exhausting than performance. That inner peace becomes visible in her words, her decisions, and the way she treats others. At the end of the day, true worth isn't found in beauty, popularity, wealth, or applause. Those things can change overnight. Character lasts much longer. Integrity lasts much longer. Compassion, courage, wisdom, and purpose create a foundation that no opinion can shake. And when a woman builds her life on those qualities, she becomes someone who doesn't simply attract attention. She earns lasting respect. That is the quiet power of knowing your worth. And it is a strength that no one can ever take away. Kindness is often misunderstood in today's world. Many people confuse it with weakness, believing that if you're compassionate, patient, or understanding, others will take advantage of you. But true kindness is not about becoming invisible or allowing people to disrespect you. It is a reflection of emotional strength. It takes far more courage to respond with patience than with anger. It takes greater maturity to listen before judging than to react impulsively. A woman who leads with kindness and empathy doesn't do it because she lacks confidence. She does it because she possesses enough confidence that she doesn't need to prove her strength through conflict. Think about the people who have made the greatest impact on your life. Chances are, you don't remember them because they had the loudest voice in the room. You remember them because they made you feel seen. They listened when no one else did. They believed in you when you doubted yourself. They treated you with respect, even when you had little to offer them in return. That is the lasting power of kindness. People may forget what you wore, what you owned, or even what you said, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. A truly lovely woman understands this principle. She knows that every person she meets is carrying a story she cannot see. Someone may smile while silently battling anxiety. Another may appear confident while struggling with loneliness. Someone else may seem distant because they're carrying the weight of personal loss. Instead of assuming the worst, she chooses curiosity over judgment. She recognizes that empathy begins when we stop asking, "What's wrong with this person?" and start asking, "What might this person be going through?" This mindset changes every interaction. Rather than rushing to criticize, she seeks to understand. Instead of reacting emotionally to every disagreement, she pauses long enough to consider another perspective. That doesn't mean she always agrees with everyone. It simply means she respects their humanity, even when opinions differ. Empathy also transforms communication. A woman who genuinely listens creates something incredibly rare in today's distracted world. Most people listen with the intention of replying. They're already preparing their next sentence before the other person has finished speaking. But deep listening is different. It requires setting aside your own assumptions long enough to truly hear another person's experience. When someone feels heard, they feel valued. And when people feel valued, trust begins to grow. This is one of the reasons emotionally intelligent people naturally attract meaningful relationships. They don't dominate every conversation. They ask thoughtful questions. They pay attention to small details. They remember important moments in other people's lives because they genuinely care. Their presence becomes comforting because people know they won't immediately be criticized or dismissed. Simon Sinek often speaks about creating environments where people feel safe. Safety doesn't come from perfection. It comes from trust. It comes from knowing that someone will treat you with dignity, even when you make mistakes. A woman who leads with kindness creates that emotional safety wherever she goes. Friends feel comfortable opening up to her. Family members know they can be honest without fear of constant judgment. Colleagues appreciate her willingness to collaborate instead of compete. Her kindness strengthens the people around her rather than making them feel smaller. Of course, kindness doesn't mean saying yes to everything. One of the biggest misconceptions about compassionate people is that they never set boundaries. In reality, healthy kindness includes honesty. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is tell someone the truth with respect. Sometimes kindness means saying no, because saying yes would only create resentment. Real empathy doesn't avoid difficult conversations. It handles them with grace and dignity. Another important part of kindness is learning to forgive. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending that hurtful actions never happened. It doesn't require allowing harmful behavior to continue. Instead, forgiveness means refusing to let bitterness control your future. Carrying resentment is like carrying a heavy backpack every single day. Eventually, it drains your energy and steals your peace. A woman who practices forgiveness understands that releasing anger is often a gift she gives herself, not just the person who hurt her. Equally important is the way she treats herself. Many people are incredibly compassionate toward others while being relentlessly critical of themselves. They encourage everyone else, but constantly tear themselves down internally. Genuine kindness begins at home. A woman who understands empathy speaks to herself with the same patience she offers a close friend. She acknowledges her mistakes without believing they define her. She celebrates progress instead of demanding perfection. This self-compassion allows her to keep growing. Instead of being paralyzed by failure, she learns from it. Instead of comparing herself to everyone around her, she focuses on becoming a little wiser each day. She realizes that personal growth isn't fueled by self-hatred. It is fueled by honest reflection combined with hope. Kindness also has a ripple effect. Every encouraging word, every sincere compliment, every patient conversation has the potential to change someone else's day in ways we may never fully understand. A single act of compassion can restore confidence to someone who was ready to give up. One moment of understanding can heal wounds that have existed for years. We often underestimate the influence of simple goodness because its results aren't always immediate. Yet over time, kindness quietly transforms families, friendships, workplaces, and communities. What makes a woman truly irresistible is not merely her appearance or her accomplishments. It is the atmosphere she creates around her. People leave her presence feeling lighter, stronger, and more hopeful because she chose empathy over judgment and compassion over pride. Her kindness is not an act she performs for recognition. It is simply an expression of who she has chosen to become. In a world where many people compete to be noticed, she chooses to make others feel valued. And that quiet strength leaves a lasting impression that beauty alone can never achieve. One of the most attractive qualities a person can possess is a sense of purpose. Not because purpose makes someone successful overnight, but because it gives life direction. A woman who lives with purpose isn't constantly asking, "How can I get more attention?" Instead, she's asking, "How can I become a better version of myself?" That shift changes everything. It changes the way she spends her time, the people she chooses to surround herself with, and the decisions she makes every day. Her life is no longer driven by temporary approval, but by long-term meaning. Purpose is what allows someone to remain steady even when life becomes uncertain. Think about a ship crossing the ocean. Storms will come, waves will rise, winds will change direction. But as long as the captain knows the destination, every adjustment has meaning. Without a destination, every wave feels overwhelming because there's no reason to endure it. Life works the same way. A woman who has discovered her purpose may still face disappointment, criticism, and failure, but she doesn't lose herself because she knows why she's moving forward. Simon Sinek has often emphasized that people are inspired by purpose more than by achievement. Achievement can impress people for a moment, but purpose inspires them for a lifetime. That's because purpose isn't about collecting trophies or proving your worth. It's about living according to values that remain constant even when circumstances change. A woman who understands her purpose doesn't need to chase every opportunity that appears exciting. She learns to choose opportunities that align with who she wants to become. This doesn't mean every woman must have a perfect 5-year plan or know exactly what her future looks like. Purpose isn't always a specific career or title. Sometimes purpose is found in the way you serve others. It may be raising children with wisdom and love. It may be building a meaningful business. It may be teaching, creating, leading, healing, encouraging, or making someone's life better every single day. The form may differ, but the foundation remains the same. Purpose answers the question, why do I get up every morning? When purpose is missing, people often begin searching for significance in all the wrong places. They seek constant attention, because attention feels like importance. They compare themselves to everyone else, because they don't know what success means for their own lives. They become distracted by trends, opinions, and endless competition because they have no internal compass guiding their decisions. The result is exhaustion. They stay busy but rarely feel fulfilled. A woman who lives with purpose experiences something different. She doesn't need to prove herself to every person she meets because she already knows what she's building. She understands that saying yes to everything often means saying no to what matters most. Purpose gives her the confidence to protect her time. While others are chasing popularity, she's investing in growth. While others are distracted by comparison, she's focused on contribution. Purpose also creates resilience. Life will always include setbacks. Dreams sometimes take longer than expected. Relationships can disappoint us. Careers may not unfold according to our plans. Health challenges, financial struggles, and unexpected losses remind us that life isn't always predictable. But purpose becomes an anchor during difficult seasons. It reminds us that today's struggle isn't the end of the story. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. This resilience is attractive because it reflects maturity. A purposeful woman doesn't give up the moment life becomes uncomfortable. She adapts, learns, and keeps moving forward. She understands that meaningful goals require patience. She doesn't expect overnight success because she values lasting growth over instant gratification. Her consistency becomes one of her greatest strengths. Another beautiful aspect of purpose is that it naturally creates discipline. Motivation is wonderful, but motivation comes and goes. Some mornings you'll feel inspired, other mornings you won't. Purpose is what keeps you moving when motivation disappears. A woman with purpose doesn't rely on emotions alone. She builds habits that support her values. She continues learning when progress feels slow. She continues showing kindness when it's inconvenient. She continues pursuing excellence because her commitment is stronger than her temporary feelings. Purpose also protects people from becoming trapped in comparison. One of the greatest sources of unhappiness today is constantly measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. It's easy to believe everyone else is moving faster, achieving more, or living a better life. But comparison only becomes powerful when you forget your own direction. Imagine running a marathon while constantly looking sideways at every other runner. Eventually, you'll lose focus, waste energy, and possibly stumble. The wisest runners keep their eyes on the finish line. The same principle applies to life. A purposeful woman celebrates other people's victories because she isn't threatened by them. She understands that someone else's success doesn't reduce her own opportunities. She believes there is enough room for everyone to grow, contribute, and succeed in different ways. That mindset frees her from jealousy and allows genuine encouragement to replace unhealthy competition. Purpose also influences the relationships she chooses. She surrounds herself with people who encourage growth, honesty, and integrity. She seeks friendships that challenge her to become wiser, rather than relationships built solely on convenience or popularity. She understands that the people closest to us often shape our habits, attitudes, and beliefs. Therefore, she intentionally invests in relationships that reflect the future she wants to create. Most importantly, purpose gives ordinary moments extraordinary meaning. Every act of kindness, every lesson learned, every challenge overcome becomes part of something bigger than immediate comfort. She doesn't need every day to be exciting because she knows that consistent faithfulness in small things eventually creates remarkable results. She finds satisfaction not only in reaching goals, but also in becoming the kind of person capable of achieving them with integrity. In the end, what makes a woman truly lovely and irresistible isn't that she captures everyone's attention. It's that she lives with such clarity and intention that her life becomes an inspiration to others. She doesn't chase significance through applause because she has already found significance through purpose. Her confidence comes from knowing where she's going, her peace comes from living according to her values, and her influence grows naturally because people are drawn to those who live with authenticity and meaning. That quiet sense of purpose becomes one of the most beautiful qualities anyone can possess, because it doesn't simply change her own life. It encourages everyone around her to search for a deeper purpose in theirs. Communication is one of the clearest reflections of character. Long before people remember your achievements, they remember the way you spoke to them. They remember whether they felt respected, understood, or dismissed. A truly lovely woman recognizes that her words have the power to build trust or break it, to encourage growth or create distance. She doesn't speak simply to be heard. She speaks to create understanding. That difference is what makes her communication so powerful. In today's world, communication has become faster than ever, but not necessarily better. Messages are sent instantly. Opinions are shared without hesitation. Conversations are interrupted by notifications, distractions, and assumptions. Many people are listening only long enough to prepare their next response instead of genuinely trying to understand another person's perspective. As a result, misunderstandings have become common and meaningful conversations have become rare. A woman who communicates with honesty and respect stands out because she brings something that has become increasingly uncommon: presence. Presence means giving someone your full attention. It means putting away distractions and choosing to truly hear what another person is saying. Most people don't realize how valuable it feels to be fully listened to. When someone knows that you're paying attention, they naturally feel respected. They become more willing to open up because they sense that their thoughts and emotions matter. A woman who develops this habit creates deeper relationships because people trust those who genuinely listen. Simon Sinek often reminds us that trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. Trust doesn't appear overnight. It's built one conversation at a time. Every promise kept, every honest discussion, and every respectful disagreement strengthens that foundation. A woman who values honesty understands that trust is far more valuable than temporary comfort. She doesn't tell people only what they want to hear. Instead, she tells the truth with kindness. She understands that honesty without compassion can become cruelty, while compassion without honesty can become deception. Real wisdom is knowing how to balance both. This balance requires emotional maturity. There will always be moments when difficult conversations cannot be avoided. Friendships experience misunderstandings. Families disagree. Relationships face conflict. The question is never whether conflict will happen. The question is how we respond when it does. A woman who communicates with respect doesn't immediately react with anger or defensiveness. She pauses before speaking because she understands that words spoken in frustration often create wounds that are difficult to heal. That pause is incredibly powerful. It allows emotions to settle before decisions are made. Instead of asking, "How can I win this argument?" she asks, "How can we solve this problem together?" That simple shift transforms conflict from a battle into an opportunity for understanding. Rather than attacking the person, she addresses the issue. She separates someone's mistake from their identity, recognizing that people are more than their worst moments. Respectful communication also means taking responsibility for your own words. It's easy to blame misunderstandings entirely on someone else, but emotionally mature people examine their own contribution first. If she speaks too harshly, she apologizes sincerely. If she misunderstands someone, she admits it openly. Owning mistakes doesn't make her weaker. In fact, it makes her more trustworthy because people know she values truth over pride. Another important part of healthy communication is consistency. There are individuals who say all the right things but behave differently when no one is watching. Their words promise loyalty, but their actions create disappointment. A truly lovely woman understands that integrity means aligning words with actions. If she makes a commitment, she does everything possible to honor it. If circumstances change, she communicates honestly instead of making excuses. This consistency creates a reputation that cannot be manufactured through appearances alone. She also knows that silence has its place. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every disagreement requires a debate. Wisdom often means recognizing when speaking will bring clarity and when remaining silent will preserve peace. In a culture that encourages reacting to everything immediately, thoughtful restraint becomes a rare strength. She understands that emotional self-control is often more powerful than having the final word. Respectful communication extends beyond close relationships. It influences the way she treats strangers, coworkers, service workers, and people who may never be able to offer her anything in return. Character is revealed not by how we treat influential people, but by how we treat those from whom we expect nothing. Her kindness remains consistent, regardless of someone's status, because respect is one of her values, not merely a strategy. She also chooses her words carefully, because she understands that language shapes reality. Encouraging words can restore confidence to someone who has almost given up. A sincere compliment can brighten an entire day. Honest appreciation can strengthen a relationship that has been quietly carrying burdens. She never underestimates the influence of positive words because she knows that every conversation leaves an emotional imprint. At the same time, she avoids gossip and unnecessary criticism. Gossip may create temporary entertainment, but it slowly destroys trust. If someone constantly speaks negatively about others, people naturally wonder what they say when no one else is present. A woman of integrity protects the dignity of others, even when they aren't in the room. She understands that speaking respectfully about people reflects her own character more than theirs. Healthy communication also includes expressing needs clearly, instead of expecting others to read her mind. Many relationships suffer because people assume their loved ones should automatically know what they're feeling. When expectations remain unspoken, disappointment often follows. Instead of allowing resentment to build silently, she communicates openly and respectfully. She expresses appreciation often, shares concerns honestly, and asks for support without manipulation or guilt. This openness prevents small misunderstandings from becoming larger conflicts. Perhaps one of the most beautiful qualities of her communication is that it leaves people feeling valued rather than diminished. She doesn't use words to control, embarrass, or belittle others. Instead, her conversations encourage growth, build confidence, and strengthen relationships. People leave her presence feeling respected because she has chosen to use her voice as a tool for connection rather than division. In the end, what makes a woman truly lovely isn't simply that she knows what to say. It's that her words consistently reflect the goodness of her heart. Her honesty builds trust. Her respect creates safety. Her empathy deepens connection. Her consistency inspires confidence. She understands that communication is more than exchanging information. It's building relationships, one conversation at a time. And because her words are guided by integrity, kindness, and wisdom, they become one of the strongest expressions of the woman she has chosen to become. One of the greatest signs of emotional maturity is the ability to protect your peace without losing your kindness. Many people believe that being a good person means saying yes to everyone, avoiding conflict at all costs, and sacrificing their own well-being to keep others happy. But over time, that way of living becomes exhausting. It creates resentment, emotional burnout, and relationships built on obligation rather than genuine love. A truly lovely woman understands that healthy boundaries are not walls designed to keep people out. They are guidelines that protect what matters most: her values, her time, her energy, and her emotional well-being. Think about a beautiful garden. A garden doesn't flourish simply because seeds are planted. It also needs a fence to protect it from anything that would destroy its growth. Without boundaries, even the healthiest plants can be damaged. Our lives work the same way. Dreams, confidence, relationships, and inner peace all require protection. A woman who understands this doesn't feel guilty for creating healthy limits. She recognizes that boundaries aren't selfish. They're necessary for living a meaningful and balanced life. Simon Sinek often talks about creating environments where people feel safe. That sense of safety doesn't happen by accident. It requires trust, respect, and mutual responsibility. The same principle applies to personal boundaries. Healthy relationships thrive when both people understand and respect each other's needs. A woman who values herself doesn't expect perfection from others, but she does expect respect. She knows that love without respect eventually becomes unhealthy, and kindness without boundaries often turns into self-neglect. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to set boundaries is fear. They fear disappointing others. They fear rejection. They fear being misunderstood or labeled as selfish. So they continue saying yes when they desperately want to say no. They agree to commitments that drain them. They tolerate disrespect because they don't want confrontation. They remain in situations that slowly diminish their confidence simply because walking away feels uncomfortable. But every unnecessary yes often becomes a silent no to something far more important: peace, growth, health, or purpose. A woman who protects her peace learns an important lesson. Not everyone will understand your boundaries, and that's okay. The people who genuinely care about you may need time to adjust, but they will ultimately respect your honesty. Those who become angry because you establish healthy limits often benefited from your lack of them. Recognizing this truth requires courage, because choosing self-respect sometimes means disappointing people who have grown accustomed to unlimited access to your time and energy. Protecting your peace also means becoming intentional about the people you allow into your inner circle. Every relationship influences your mindset. Some people inspire growth, encourage honesty, and celebrate your success. Others constantly criticize, manipulate, or create unnecessary drama. A truly lovely woman doesn't hate difficult people, but she understands that compassion doesn't require constant closeness. She can wish someone well while recognizing that their presence consistently disrupts her emotional health. Wisdom is knowing the difference between helping someone and allowing yourself to be harmed by unhealthy patterns. This doesn't mean living in isolation or avoiding every challenging conversation. Difficult conversations are part of healthy relationships. The difference is that she refuses to participate in repeated cycles of disrespect. She believes in forgiveness, but she also believes in accountability. She understands that forgiving someone doesn't always mean giving them unlimited opportunities to repeat the same harmful behavior. Grace and wisdom walk together. Healthy boundaries also transform the way she manages her time. Time is one of life's most valuable resources because once it passes, it can never be recovered. A woman who values her purpose understands that every commitment carries a cost. Saying yes to one thing automatically means saying no to something else. That's why she becomes intentional with her schedule. She creates space for rest, learning, meaningful relationships, and personal growth. She realizes that being constantly busy is not the same as being productive. Sometimes protecting your peace means protecting your calendar. Another important boundary involves comparison. In today's world, people are constantly exposed to carefully edited versions of other people's lives. Social media can quietly convince us that everyone else is happier, more successful, or more beautiful. A woman who guards her peace refuses to measure her worth against someone else's highlight reel. She appreciates inspiration but avoids unhealthy comparison because she knows that comparison steals joy and distracts her from her own unique journey. Protecting peace also requires learning the power of saying no without unnecessary guilt. Many people feel they must provide lengthy explanations every time they decline an invitation or refuse a request. But emotionally mature people understand that a respectful no is a complete sentence. They don't need to invent excuses to justify caring for themselves. They communicate honestly, kindly, and confidently because they know that honoring their limits allows them to show up more fully in the commitments they do choose. An equally important boundary exists within the mind. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every criticism deserves belief. A lovely woman learns to guard her inner dialogue as carefully as she guards her relationships. She refuses to replay every negative comment or allow fear to dominate her thinking. Instead, she chooses thoughts that align with truth, hope, and growth. Her inner peace begins with the conversations she has with herself every day. Perhaps the most beautiful result of healthy boundaries is freedom. When a woman no longer feels responsible for managing everyone's emotions, she becomes lighter. When she stops chasing approval, she becomes more authentic. When she protects her energy, she becomes more generous because she gives from a place of abundance rather than exhaustion. Her kindness becomes genuine instead of forced. Her relationships become healthier because they are built on honesty instead of obligation. People often assume that strength is measured by how much pressure someone can endure. But true strength is knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It's having the wisdom to recognize that every battle isn't yours to fight. It's choosing peace over proving a point, growth over guilt, and integrity over people-pleasing. These choices require courage because they often go against the expectations of the world. In the end, what makes a woman truly lovely isn't that she sacrifices herself for everyone else. It's that she values herself enough to protect the life she's been given. She treats her heart, her time, her purpose, and her peace as precious gifts rather than unlimited resources. She understands that healthy boundaries don't push love away. They create the conditions where genuine love, respect, and trust can flourish. And because she lives with that quiet confidence, she becomes someone who brings calm instead of chaos, clarity instead of confusion, and strength without losing her compassion. That balance is one of the most beautiful qualities anyone can possess. One of the most beautiful qualities a woman can possess is a commitment to lifelong growth. She understands that becoming the best version of herself is not a destination but a journey. Every experience, every challenge, every success, and every failure becomes an opportunity to learn. She doesn't believe that maturity means knowing everything. Instead, she realizes that true wisdom begins the moment you admit there is always more to discover. This mindset keeps her humble, curious, and constantly evolving. Many people stop growing because they become comfortable. They reach a certain level of success, develop familiar routines, and begin believing they have nothing left to improve. Comfort feels safe, but comfort can quietly become the greatest obstacle to personal development. A woman who continues growing refuses to let comfort define her future. She understands that life rewards those who remain teachable. Every new skill she learns, every book she reads, every meaningful conversations she has, and every lesson she gains from experience expands her perspective. Simon Sinek often emphasizes that leadership is not about arriving at perfection. It is about committing to continuous improvement. Great leaders remain students throughout their lives because they know that growth never truly ends. The same principle applies to personal character. A truly lovely woman never assumes she has reached her highest potential. She asks herself difficult questions. She reflects on her choices. She celebrates her strengths while honestly acknowledging areas where she can improve. That willingness to grow is what makes her both confident and approachable. Growth begins with self-awareness. Before anyone can improve, they must first understand themselves. She takes time to recognize her strengths without becoming arrogant, and she acknowledges her weaknesses without allowing them to define her. She pays attention to her habits, her emotions, and the patterns that shape her daily life. Instead of blaming everyone else when something goes wrong, she asks herself, what can I learn from this experience? That simple question transforms setbacks into valuable lessons. Failure plays an important role in this journey. Society often teaches us to fear mistakes, but failure is one of life's greatest teachers. Every successful person has experienced disappointment, rejection, and moments of doubt. The difference is that they refuse to let those experiences become permanent labels. A woman committed to growth doesn't see failure as evidence that she's incapable. She sees it as information. Every mistake reveals something that can be improved. Every obstacle develops resilience. Every challenge strengthens qualities that comfort could never produce. This perspective changes the way she responds to criticism as well. Not every criticism is fair, but not every criticism should be ignored either. She learns to separate destructive negativity from constructive feedback. When someone offers honest advice with good intentions, she listens instead of becoming defensive. She understands that growth often requires hearing uncomfortable truths. Rather than protecting her ego, she protects her future by remaining open to learning. Continuous growth also requires discipline. Many people wait until they feel motivated before taking action. The problem is that motivation comes and goes. Some days enthusiasm is high, while other days it disappears completely. A woman committed to personal development doesn't rely solely on feelings. She builds daily habits that move her forward regardless of her emotions. She reads even when she's busy. She exercises even when she's tired. She keeps promises to herself because she understands that discipline creates freedom. Every small act of consistency becomes another brick in the foundation of her character. She also recognizes that growth isn't limited to career success or academic knowledge. Emotional growth is equally important. She learns how to manage stress without allowing it to control her. She develops patience in difficult situations. She practices forgiveness instead of carrying resentment. She becomes more emotionally intelligent by understanding both her own feelings and the emotions of others. This emotional maturity strengthens every relationship she builds, because people naturally trust someone who responds thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Another important part of growth is curiosity. Curious people continue asking questions throughout their lives. They don't assume they already have every answer. A lovely woman remains interested in new ideas, different perspectives, and experiences outside her comfort zone. She enjoys learning because knowledge broadens understanding and reduces unnecessary judgment. The more she learns, the more she realizes how much there is still to discover. This humility keeps her grounded while allowing her wisdom to deepen. Growth also requires courage because change is rarely comfortable. It means letting go of habits that no longer serve you. It means admitting when you're wrong. It means stepping into unfamiliar situations where success isn't guaranteed. Many people avoid growth because they're afraid of looking inexperienced. But a woman who values personal development understands that every expert was once a beginner. She doesn't allow temporary discomfort to prevent long-term transformation. One of the greatest benefits of continuous growth is confidence. Not the kind of confidence that comes from pretending to know everything, but the confidence that comes from knowing you can learn anything. She doesn't fear new challenges because she trusts her ability to adapt. She knows that even if she doesn't have every answer today, she can develop the skills she needs tomorrow. This growth mindset removes the fear of failure because learning becomes more important than appearing perfect. She also surrounds herself with people who encourage her development. She seeks mentors who inspire wisdom, friends who challenge her to become better, and relationships built on honesty rather than flattery. She understands that the people closest to us influence our attitudes, habits, and beliefs. By choosing relationships that support growth, she creates an environment where continuous improvement becomes natural rather than difficult. Perhaps the most inspiring quality of a woman committed to growth is that her progress encourages others. She doesn't preach about becoming better, she demonstrates it through her actions. Her willingness to learn inspires those around her to pursue their own development. Her resilience reminds others that failure isn't the end. Her humility teaches that strength and teachability can exist together. Without trying to impress anyone, she becomes a living example of what consistent personal growth can achieve. At the end of the day, true beauty isn't found in remaining the same year after year. It is found in becoming wiser, kinder, stronger, and more compassionate with every season of life. A woman who embraces lifelong growth understands that every day is another opportunity to improve her character, expand her perspective, and live more intentionally. She isn't competing with anyone else because her greatest competition is the person she was yesterday. That quiet commitment to continuous growth makes her not only more capable, but also more inspiring. It is one of the most irresistible qualities she can possess because it reflects a heart that never stops learning, a mind that never stops expanding, and a spirit that never stops believing that tomorrow can be better than today.